Have you ever felt like you've forfeited God's plan for your life? Hey friends, it's Pastor Mike from Fellowship Church. Always enjoy connecting with you midweek. Hope you're having a wonderful week. Hope you've enjoyed all this great weather lately. Again, that question for you, have you ever felt like you've forfeited God's plan for your life? Now friends, I used a word there that might be a little bit familiar to you because we've just come out of the Olympic season. And I hope you enjoyed the Olympics like I do. I love watching all those nations compete, and I sure love seeing sports that you'd never see any other time. But every now and then in some of those Olympic activities, you'll see a forfeit take place. A forfeit takes place because an athlete who was scheduled and was planning to contribute and participate was unable to. Perhaps because there was an injury, or perhaps because there were some complications in their preparation, like they used some substances they shouldn't have been using, and they were required to forfeit. To forfeit simply means you kind of showed up, but you were unable to fulfill the plan. That's what a forfeit is, friends. And here's that question for you again. Have you ever looked at your life and felt like there were things in your present or things in your past for which you are now forfeiting God's plan in your life? Like God saying, I'm sorry, there's too much going on in your life. There are too many black marks on the ledger behind your name. You can't fulfill my plan for your life anymore. Well, let me tell you why that doesn't happen, friends. A few weeks ago, we spent a Sunday morning discussing a man named Samson. And we talked a lot about Samson as a person, his character, his nature, how God had planned to use him. He was going to be a Nazarite. He was going to be someone set apart at birth for God's purposes in his life. And then Samson became Samson. I guess you could say he just Samsoned or something like that, because from the time that he was fairly young, Samson rebelled. And Samson's life, as you may have read it, Samson's life really became a textbook example of what not to do. Samson was impulsive. He made bad decisions without thinking things through, heavy ramifications. Samson wasn't very good at following a predetermined plan. Samson kind of tended to do his own thing. Samson was vengeful. Samson at times was flat out selfish. And Samson's life story, if you read it through in the book of Judges again, Judges 13 through 16, Samson's life story was a life story of what not to do when God has placed a call upon your life. So, if you read the Samson story, and of course when we think of Samson, we think a big muscular guy, God's going to do great things through him. If you read the Samson story, when you get to the end of his life, you might think, wow, Samson really messed up. With all the things that Samson did, I mean soliciting prostitutes and falling in love with a woman he had no business falling in love with, all the things that Samson did, you'd think, wow, talk about a sad story. He forfeited God's plan for his life. Unless you start reading early on in the Samson story, and it says that God planned to confront the Philistines through Samson. Confront, that's a powerful word. Sounds like Samson is going to be a confrontational guy. Most people don't like confrontational people. So God planned to confront the Philistines, the enemy of Israel, through Samson. Samson messes it up for several chapters. At the end of his life, Samson, who's wounded and broken, he still is able to be involved in an event at which a lot of the Philistine leaders perished, meaning God still did what he wanted to do through Samson. He wanted to confront the Philistines. He wanted to get the Philistines off from Israel's back. And he still did it through Samson in spite of all of Samson's failures. Any normal person would say, wow, Samson, you really Samsoned, old buddy. You screwed it up. There's no chance for God to work through you now. And yet God still accomplished God's purposes through a faulted man. Don't you ever look at your life story and think there are too many black marks on the ledger of my life. God can no longer use me. My life is no longer useful for the plans and purposes of God. If God can use Samson after Samson Samsoned, if he can still use him, he can still use you. We are never too far gone to be outside of the plans and purposes of God. God is able to redeem failures, and God is able to use people just like you and me for his ultimate kingdom purposes. Friends, God always wins, and there are no forfeits in the purposes and plans of God. I hope that's a word of hope for you. It certainly is a word of hope for me. I've leaned on that numerous times in my life. Hope you have a wonderful week. Hope you know that we love you and we are praying for you. We certainly care about you. Friends, I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks here on some vacation time, so the next midweek video will come out after Labor Day. Hope you have a wonderful beginning to the school year. If your kids are in school, again, know that we love you and pray for you. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.